Thank you. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Skip the first.
I give myself one before I give them all away. You can go ahead. We're streaming.
Thank you.
Not bad.
We'll go ahead and call the June 4th meeting of the Redevelopment Commission to order. Luckily, we don't have to do roll call because everybody's here in person tonight. We did change the format on the agenda just slightly, so we have some presentations tonight. We want to make sure that everybody that was in attendance for the presentation got to go first, and then we'll handle our normal business afterwards. Item number 2 on the agenda, the annual report presentation. Representative from Baker Tilly.
Mr. President, Council, thanks for having me here tonight. It feels a little weird. It's like my second meeting I've had in person in about 3 months, so appreciate that. But this is kind of our annual meeting. Just on the how long I've been doing this. It's maybe 10 years. It's been a while.
I've been here 7 and you've always been a part of it, so.
But this is kind of an annual, for some of the USC's new faces. So this is for a meeting that we've done for a number of years, just trying to report to the Redevelopment Commission. Historically, it's just kind of update you on the tax increment you're anticipated to collect for the upcoming year. Also kind of letting you know that what you collected the prior year is close to what we had estimated. If not, explain why. And there were a few years where there were some variances, usually due to large delinquencies or appeals. So we follow that for you. Also making sure that your revenue is coming in strong enough to cover any outstanding obligations that you have. You do have a couple of bonds, as you know, outstanding, and some other long-term obligations. That was kind of the initial reason that we met. And I think also the board used this report as we'll kind of go through for future projects, making sure that you have available cash on hand to fund these projects and be able to plan, do some long-term planning. And then last year, 2 years ago, really, the legislation was changed to, again, try to encourage more transparency, require redevelopment commissions to invite all the overlapping taxing districts to an annual meeting and to provide certain key pieces of information. Kind of one, what the overall goal of the board is as far as the reason that you have these allocation areas and what your plans are for them. Put together kind of an illustrative budget. And then also talk about kind of what the potential impact is of capturing the growth, the new assessed value on the overlapping taxing district. So we've kind of expanded this meeting over the years as the statute has changed. So my goal is through this PowerPoint presentation to help answer those questions. But if any questions that you have come up as we're going through this, feel free to stop me and I'd be happy to address those for you. The first page talks about your areas when they were created and expanded. You have one of the older TIF areas in the state. One was created in 1990, kind of called the original area, Area 1. And as you can see, it was expanded in 2012 and 2013. They also show the expiration dates because depending on when TIF areas were created or amended, they have different expiration dates. And when I say expiration dates, when you hit that date, all that assessed value, all that new assessed value that you're currently capturing and generating revenue from, all that assessed value will automatically flow through back to the tax base. We'll talk about that more. And then in 1993, the town created a second TIF area, Area 2. And then you can see in 2000, and it's been expanded over the years. And then in 2015, to allow for more flexibility, those two separate allocation areas were combined into one. And that just allowed the board and the town to use kind of revenue from one area to the other, and be able to really use the money more efficiently to do larger projects. And then since then, it's been expanded a couple of times. At the bottom of the schedule, you can see that in 2019, last year, we were anticipating to collect $2,182,000, and you actually collected $2,168,000, about 99% collection rate. That's pretty strong. It tells me the taxpayers there paying their taxes and paying them on time, and you're not seeing any delinquencies or appeals. And you can see this year, 2020, for the year, you should collect $2,283,000. You probably haven't gotten your spring settlement yet, but you should be getting that here in the next couple of months. I would not be totally surprised if you don't receive less than half of that. Typically, you see about half in spring, and sometimes even more than half in the spring, and the rest of December. But with the governor extending the taxpayers ability to pay their property taxes, I've seen where spring settlement in a lot of cases are less than half. But in theory, you should be made whole in December of a year also. And that's just not the Redone Commission, this is going to be the town and all the other units as well. Page 3 looks at some of the projects that the Redone Commission has funded over the years. The first one, first few, is kind of looking at some of the outstanding obligations. And the first one is the 2014 bonds that were issued to fund a variety of projects. Those were issued in an amount of $12 million and a little over $11 million outstanding. Those matured 2039, so have probably some years left on those. But again, just payable from the tax increment area. You have the 2010 SRF bonds that the town issued and are payable from a combination of utility revenues and tax increment. The town and the Redone Commission negotiated, kind of worked together to try to use some of the tax increment to help pay for some of that project because it does benefit the TIP area and allow the town to keep utility rates down. So you have to put all of the debt service on the utility rates. And then most recently last year, you issued a loan, kind of an installment contract for the Shell building. There's still over $4 million outstanding on that. And then at the bottom of the schedule is just a list of projects, kind of pay-as-you-go projects, because you can fund projects through borrowing or cash on hand, which I think you guys have done for a lot of your projects. So fire station, utility projects, the gateway projects, and then of course also a lot of economic development incentives over the years. The next page looks at kind of putting together a budget. Again, this is not a formal budget, nothing that you have to pass, but just kind of an illustration of money that you're collecting each year, where kind of some placement orders where that money could be used for. So at the top shows the tax increment that you're collecting. As I mentioned, this year you're going to collect about $2,283,000. You can see that's gradually increasing over the years, and that's because you do have a number of taxpayers that have property tax abatements. So as those abatements wear off and they pay more taxes, that additional taxes will be collected by the Redone Commission. So you have your payments for your obligations, the 2014 bonds, about $680,000, the SRF bonds of $300,000, the installment contract, and that's kind of fluctuates. That's based upon how much you've drawn down. So this kind of assumes that you've drawn down all at closing. So the payments here are very conservative. You're not going to pay that much, but really won't know what that amount is until the due date. And then we put a placement order for professional services that you incur throughout the year. For capital projects, talking to Chelsea, you do have a lot on your table that you want to accomplish this year. So you put $3.7 million in for infrastructure improvements for this year, $850,000 in economic development projects, and then $1.1 million related toward gateway projects. So if you look at that, compared to your revenue, $2.2 million, and you're saying $6.9 million expenses, math doesn't work there. Well, you have accumulated TIF over the years. Again, being efficient with your funds and good stewards of your funds, you accumulated money over years, so you can pay for these large projects with cash on hand rather than having to go out and do additional bonding. So you do have cash on hand to cover those $6.9 million. And then 21, you can see the additional kind of budgeted items that we have going forward. Any questions so far? And there's capital projects and ED projects, or we talk about that on page 5. We kind of just highlight a little bit, working with Chelsea what this project might be. Again, none of these have been formally approved, but just potential projects that you could pay for with the cash that you receive in the future.
the High Street path and lighting, which is the 1.13 million, that has been approved. That's where that project lets in December of this year. The economic development projects, that $850,000 placeholder is what we have committed to NICEPAC, also assuming that that happens this year. So for the 2020 numbers, those are really in line for the capital projects with actual projected expenditures for the year. After 2020, it's kind of a placeholder for a guesstimate of what it may be. So just a little more detail.
The next couple of pages tries to demonstrate the impact of capturing the assessed value and they collecting that $2 million has on the Regional Commission and the overlapping taxing district. So here we try to put together this little slide that shows kind of like a TIF 101, how TIF works. When the TIF areas were created back in 1990 and then further additional expansions, the assessed value that was there before the TIF area was created, we call that the base assessed value. That's that blue area right there. The taxes that are generated from that base assessed value, you do not capture. That's what goes through to flow the town, the school, the county, townships, libraries. Anything above that base assessed value is the growth or the increment. That's the green area. That's what you capture. And the taxes generated off that new assessed value is called TIF. And that's the $2 million that you collected last year, you expect to collect this year. And you can continue collecting that until the TIF area ends. So the base in your area is about $57 million. The increment is about $122 million. So in your allocation area, just real property, because you want to capture real property, it's about $180 million of total assessed value. Again, 57 is in the base, and the 122 million is all new growth that you captured. Now, once that TIF area ends, as I talked about, TIF areas expire over a certain period of time. When they all expire, that $122 million that you're currently capturing, that will all flow through to the tax base and help fund the budgets of the town, the school, townships, and library. So what we've done here on the next page is kind of illustrate what that might look like. So the top of page 7 is kind of the current situation for the town of Mooresville. Town of Mooresville has a total tax rate of $1.86. And I've broken that out between the different units. You know, what makes up that $1.86? You have the county, you have the township, you have the town, the school, and you have the library. We looked at the tax rates, we looked at its tax base, the net assessed value, and we looked at the budget. So if you kind of look at the town of Mooresville, kind of in the middle there, the town's budget is $2,499,000. If you look to the far right, that's what the state says the town can levy in property taxes. And the town's at its maximum levy, so they can't levy anymore. The tax base, all the assessed values in the town, whether it's real property, personal property, is $490 million. So the town has to levy a tax rate of 50 cents and charge that on all the taxpayers in the town to fund its $2,499,000 budget. So we did that for all the different units, kind of illustrate how that would work for 2020. Also in 2020, as I said, you're capturing $122 million. Take that times the tax rate of $1.86, and that's how you come up with the $2,383,000 that you're collecting. Again, because you're capturing that $122 million, and the tax rate generates $2.3 million in TIF. Now, once all the areas end, and now you're looking at 2039, keeping everything else constant, what would it look like if you no longer captured that $122 million that all passed through? So again, kind of looking at Mooresville town. Again, you can't raise more money because the state says the town at least is at its maximum levy. So you're frozen at $2,499,000 this year. But your tax base grows from $490 million to $613 million because now all that assessed value is passed through. So you have the same budget but a higher tax base. Now you only need a tax rate of 40 cents instead of 50 cents to generate that same amount of money to fund your budget. So again, we've done that for all the units. There are a couple of units that are different CUME funds. Those are kind of called rate driven. So those rates stay the same. You can't actually generate more revenue. So the county has a CUME cap development fund, and so does the town. So in those funds, they would actually see additional revenue. So for the town, that extra $122 million assessed value would generate an extra $52,000 in the town's CUME cap development fund. conversation last year, they're not at their maximum levy. They've chosen to keep, be below that. For this purposes, we assumed, for these numbers anyway, we assumed that they kept their budget the same. So their budget right now is $5,497,000. If the school decided to keep that budget the same, with a higher tax base, they could reduce their tax rate by 4 cents. They do have the option, since they're not at their maximum levy, they could generate additional revenue up to their maximum amount. And their maximum amount's about $5.8 million. So they could generate, with additional assessed value, generate an extra $336,000 of revenue if they wanted to. And because of so much assessed value being passing through, they could actually generate an additional $336,000 and reduce their tax rate by a little over a penny, or a combination thereof. But looking at all those units and assuming that the town would decrease their tax rate and keep the budget the same, you can see by passing through the assessed value, in other words, saying once the TIF area ends in 20 years, the tax rate would go down about 22 cents for the taxpayers in town of Mooresville. Just kind of capturing your assessed value and kind of delaying the benefit of a lower tax rate and funding the projects. And I mentioned this last year, the goal is by doing all this infrastructure, new development, that in 2039, when it's time for this area to end, you're not passing through $122 million, you're passing through $175 million. Because your goal is to increase economic development and tax base. And employment as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any commission members have any questions for Jason?
I have none. Thank you.
Dr. Moore? Now's the time.
I knew I couldn't see that one.
Well, I appreciate the nod to the discussion in the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, I was not aware that you weren't at your maximum until last year, so no, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Now, in reality, this is just a plan as it sits right now, and this is the way it could turn out. How many RDCs have you seen actually let the TIF expire and go away?
Before the statutorily required?
Yeah.
A handful.
You did?
Mm.
Okay. I just wondered if anybody did it.
Yeah.
Because most of them come up with something else or extend.
Yeah, the add-on.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're not allowed to extend. I mean, really, your original areas that were created in 1999 until 2015, they did not have a sunset date. They could go on forever. And then the statute changed in 2015 and said, no, you can only go up to 25 years. But yeah, I mean, typically, you're right, they usually, there's usually projects that they find that use that money for, but no, there are a few that have ended areas early because they ran out of projects. That's the responsible thing to do.
Right. And so this is just a snapshot, an estimate of where it could go.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is the Mooresville Consolidated School Corporation STEM presentation with Dr. Jake Allen and Holly Fry.
Thank you very much. How would you mind?
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm Jake Allen, Assistant Superintendent of Business with Mooresville Schools, and this is Holly Fry, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, and we're very thankful for your audience this evening. What we would like to propose, our purpose for being here, is to talk about the possibility of partnering with the town, with the Development Commission, in regard to expanding our STEM academic programs. So STEM is the catchy acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And there has been a significant push placed on these areas of academics over the last 10 to 15 years in regard to the growing industry. I think STEM occupations are almost doubling the rate of job openings in the economy right now as other occupations. And so what we're always focused on, of course, at the school system is putting together the best curriculum, instruction, learning environment that we can in order to give our students the best education possible and the best chance to succeed in society, to compete with anyone from anywhere. Whether that's here in Mooresville competing with Plainfield, whether it's Carmel, whether it's Cathedral, we want to provide the best opportunities for our students, and we believe that we can do that, and we believe that our students are deserving of such. So we have 3 key areas that we're focusing on STEM in our district, and they are Project Lead the Way, and we have our Makerspace labs, and we also have our agri-science. And so Mrs. Fry will talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Dave. So we have many wonderful programs for students who attend Mooresville schools, but I just want to highlight a few that Jake just talked about regarding STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math focus. So one is Project Lead the Way, which I'm advertising right now. That is a program that is offered for our students beginning in preschool, and it goes up through 12th grade. It started about 8 years ago at our high school, and it involves 3 pathways for students, which is biomedical sciences, engineering, and computer science. We were fortunate to expand our engineering pathway this past year, by offering aeronautical engineering, and we will be adding cybersecurity to our computer science pathway beginning in this coming school year. So these programs continue to grow at all levels. We also offer it for our 7th and 8th graders as an elective, and again at all 5 elementaries. Northwood, having done this for a while, they are the veterans with Project Lead the Way. But we were fortunate last year to get a grant that helped us to expand our programs to our other 4 elementaries, and that is preschool through 6th grade at our elementaries. We're still in the beginning stages there because it is an expensive program, so we have to budget wisely and prepare for that. As Jake said, each of our elementary schools has a makerspace. This is an area within each building that combines technology and other hands-on inquiry-based problem-solving activities for kids. So anywhere from virtual reality goggles to art supplies. There's a Lego wall where students can build with Legos, they can build with blocks, they can use cardboard to create and construct. One of our schools has an area where everybody brings in their small appliances that no longer work, and kids get in there and they take them apart and see whatever they find in all those small little parts. So again, that's in the beginning stages for us. We started that with Northwood the previous year, and this past year expanded it to our other elementaries, and are still looking to add that to our middle school and high school space as well. Our agri-science program is for our high school students. We have an agri-science pathway, which graduation pathways are now required for students in order to graduate from high school. Agri-science is one of ours. We will be adding 8th graders to our agri-science program next year for Intro to Ag, so that then brings that opportunity to a 5-year program for students. And by having 8th graders begin high school courses a tad bit early, it allows us to offer an expanded curriculum. So in the next couple of years, we'd love to add natural resources and agribusiness to our agri-science program, which already includes plant science, animal sciences. There we have some food science components to that. And we also have an additional teacher that we have so many kids that are now interested in that pathway that we have an additional teacher up there in our greenhouse as well. In order for us to be able to offer some of these courses in our agri-science program, there is some need for supplies, spacing, and renovation of our current greenhouse area, which is where our agri-science program takes place. So those are some things that I think Jake is going to talk about a little bit as well.
So as Holly mentioned, we have a broad range of needs, and I think what's exciting is just the opportunity to work with the commission in a manner like this. And if you were to say you have $10, we got something to do for $10. And if you would say we have $1 million, we have something to do for $1 million. So it's more. Shoot for the moon, you land on the stars. So I think what's neat though is just this is on the ground floor and just ready to partner. academic program, something that we can directly see the kids benefit from. One of the most fulfilling parts of my job as the business guy, as you can imagine, dealing with numbers all day long, and tax rates and levies, and but to go into a classroom and see a kid learning with equipment that we were able to help provide is what makes it worth it getting up every day. So it's very rewarding if you were to partner with us on this and to come in and take a walk around and see the kids learning the materials that you help provide. I think I would dare to say it'd be one of the most rewarding days that you've had as a member of the board. So that being said, I'm not here to ask for a certain amount of money. I'm simply here to ask for a partnership for you all to consider partnering with us in something like this, and then we can hammer out the details as we move along and do so together. So it's not necessarily us showing up with a project saying here it is. It's talking with you all and saying, hey, what would you like the project to be? What would it, in this we frame STEM in this area because it's a really big initiative for the district, for our students in the learning process. It's exciting because it also correlates with a lot of businesses in town, and we're trying to work with Equipment Technologies, who makes the Apache sprayer, and we talked to them a little bit about learning how they code the GPS systems for the spraying machines. We've worked with a Indiana local company, not Mooresville local, but Corteva, which used to be Dow DuPont AgriScience, and they have provided us with some grow lights for the greenhouse, and they are helping us organize the space. So they're one of the largest agri-science companies in the world. So, and they're right there up on the northwest side. So that being said, I think that's all we have for you, and I just would ask that you consider the proposal, and if you have any questions, we would love to answer them or try.
Commission members, questions? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
I guess the question for the commission, I don't know if we need a motion for a partnership, but more of a consensus.
Yeah, I mean,
There's nothing.
formally, we would have an agreement with the school where we would pledge this partnership, and it would outline the funds coming to them and the uses of those funds. So I believe I can reiterate with the school saying that this is, they didn't want to come and tell us, this is the project, take it or leave it, and we need X dollars. They're asking for your input on any of these projects and how you would like to help in whatever capacity you guys would like to do. So I think there's no formal action needs to be taken, but just discussion on what projects you like or are interested in, or any just general discussion. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. Okay.
So that would all be, didn't necessarily become something you wanted to be, something you could grow together, or something you have specific interest in or passionate about.
I think this is a partnership that the commission and the school needs to discuss further for sure. No question about it.
Yeah, I think it's too early in the stage of it to do more than say, at least I'm interested in finding out what we can do as a partnership.
Same all the way down?
I have one question for you guys. You mentioned the pathways and like the agri-science and other things. Is there any universities that sort of assists with into any particular like ag science at Purdue or anything like that?
I would say Purdue is probably one of the bigger colleges in regard to the agri-science program,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I would count out anybody else.
Right, I just, and since there are a lot that seek our students especially, because we are one of few districts that have a full agri-science program that they continue to offer. It was one program that was cut many years ago, and it's just, we recently brought it back to the forefront, so it isn't a common pathway for students.
It, as we enter into our, it's an elective course right now, but with it being mandatory to our 8th grade students next year as part of that curriculum, since you have have 358 graders going through that, that's going to significantly impact how many choose it as an elective or as a pathway going through the high school. All right. So, the plan is to really grow this program. It's something that we think is not only unique and special to Indiana, but unique and special to Morgan County. So, we see this as a program that would not only benefit Mooresville students primarily, but also Morgan County students, because we think it would be a draw as well for students that don't have the access to this type of program.
I'll ask the oddball question.
Let's hear it.
Pick one area. Okay.
Would we be in line to suggest forming a committee of us to work with Jake to form a more complete proposal?
Certainly could. I think that would be kind of a full commission decision, but that's definitely a possibility, yes.
May I say something? So with the agri-science, there's not only resource needs, materials, but we even have structural needs with lab spaces and things of that nature. So I wasn't joking when I said $1 million. There could be renovation of the space. But it's labs. Right now, we're currently in what used to be the old automotive area. And if you're familiar with it on the backside of one of the games, looks like a large garage. We're proud of it, but it could be much better and better suit the needs of the students. But it would really be wonderful to have a cool lab, agri-science lab in that space that our students could benefit from, and it would be open to all the students. And that kind of project would impact 4,400 students. So we're excited about that, and it would be something that would be unique to Mooresville and Morgan County.
So similar to, I guess, the COVID commission, I'm just going to go off of that. 2 members of the commission plus Chelsea Mans, would that be sufficient?
I would think so.
Now for the difficult part.
I'd be happy to serve on that.
I was going to actually suggest.
I have a daughter who's going to be an 8th grader this year. So,
Oh,
Perfect.
I would also be interested, but I'm sure everybody else would be interested as well. So I'm happy to pass off down the line. Mr. Taylor?
Interested as well. Kind of bridging off what we ran into with our, not our PPP loans, but something similar. I do have a relation in the school system. So didn't know if that would be a conflict or not. Otherwise, I'd be more happy.
Pete, I tell you what, I can't get them to work for nothing.
I'd be interested. I have a granddaughter that'll be in the 5th grade. Uh-huh.
There's, I don't know if that, any question was directed at me, but there's no legal conflict, as in we're governmental entities.
Okay.
You have several commission members interested. I guess that's a good thing, right? As long as you don't say million again.
That's what I was going to say. Don't talk about that.
I heard $10. I would need a motion for 2 members or for the school corporation to come back before the full commission.
I would make that motion
Which one?
to form a committee with 2 members.
I have a motion. Which 2 members, Mr. Culp? Commissioner Culp, sorry.
Well, on myself certainly, but I don't want to speak for Virginia and Ryan. Both volunteered. So
He can just do a motion to create the committee or create the committee in himself. And then we can do a separate motion for the other member.
okay,
There you go.
that would be my motion to create a 2-person committee with myself as one of those members.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Sorry, Ryan, were you the second? Did you second?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Next motion would be for the second committee member.
I'm more than happy to serve, but once again.
Yeah, and why don't you go ahead, because I was on the other committee, and you
Okay.
couldn't be because of your position, so why don't you go ahead and do that?
Thank you.
Sure.
I am taking that as a motion. Do we have a second?
That's a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You have a committee.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate y'all getting in contact with
Dustin?
Sir.
I would like to say, I greatly appreciate the commissioners' consensus to explore an opportunity with school corporation.
Oh, sure.
That's something we needed to
Well,
do. Thank you.
thank you for those kind words. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Once, twice?
If I may, I know, I'm sorry. But in line with the annual report, I do want to take advantage of Jason still being here, and we didn't really ask for anything from the schools. If you had any questions directed at Jason, I just want to take a minute while you're still here.
Thank you for the opportunity. I don't.
Okay,
Thank you.
just wanted to
Thank you.
put that out there, sorry.
Nope.
And Mr. Taylor?
Well, you guys have done good.
I came here for forgiveness. Thank you, though, for working with me. It might be a good time to say that. I know that, one might wonder why the schools will not collect the full levy. And our board has done a really good job of being aware of the taxpayer and maintaining the tax rate at 0.7874 over the last 10 years. And so that might be a little bit of a reason as to why we wouldn't collect that full levy. So it's in order to honor the taxpayers and keep that rate where it has been.
Alrighty. Anybody else want to jump in? Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes from the same day, both the joint meeting and the commission meeting. We'll have to do these separately.
We do? Do we?
I believe we would have to. Or can we just go for it?
It can,
You
You-
can just,
yeah.
you can.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the minutes for May 7th, for the joint meeting between the commission and the town council, and the May 7th meeting for just a commission-only meeting be approved as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Financial report. Has everybody had a chance to review? When that is complete, if I could have a motion.
I just have a question, Chelsea. The 50,000 for the Morgan County, that's for the year, is it not?
So that 50,000 is for the COVID relief small business fund.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
Okay.
we can get into that, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we still to date don't have any applicants.
Right,
But we did want to go ahead and issue those funds to coincide with the governor's orders. And if no funds are expended, that will be returned. I think
Okay.
we had an August date going from that.
August, okay,
So,
all right,
that is for that purpose.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
That was all I had.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the financial report.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Under old business, the Mooresville Business Center update. Merriman and Bethel.
It's been a wet month.
Yes.
They have been out there working as much as they possibly can. I spoke with both Runabout Construction as well as Banning Engineering, who's been on site doing construction observation. Even with all of the water, all of the rain, things are going well. There's no fear right now of timelines being pushed or schedules being pushed, which honestly with a month like we've had is great news. So it's a good thing. I don't have a whole lot to report. Things are moving along as they should be. So I know I had said last month that construction was to start for Runabout for the shell building. With the rain, grading has been an issue. So they're still getting the pad finalized so that they can actually begin construction. So if you've been out there though, it's I get excited. I'm kind of a geek, but to see the grading and to see things really start to take shape, you can see where things are going to be, and that's pretty exciting. So happy to answer any questions, but that is really Merriman Bethel Road. I will also say in the docket there is a $550,000 invoice for it's to GM Development, and that is really going to First Merchants Bank. In December, since I know we have a lot of new commission members, the commission, trying to think of the best way to, it's really convoluted. So we bid Merriman and Bethel roads, okay? Merriman and Bethel roads also includes a stub road, which is Haymaker Drive, which is what is going to access the shell building. Grading has to happen over that entire site. We have two different contractors, so we had Merriman and Bethel roads, and we had the shell building. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to have two different companies then go in and grade it when it was all one cohesive site. So what we ended up doing was we took grading out of the Merriman and Bethel bid, and Runabout essentially took that on as a part of the shell building. In order to do that, there's extra funds that needed to be expended, but Bethel Road and Merriman were less than anticipated because we took that grading out. So the commission actually approved the additional $550,000 expenditure specifically for grading. That is a pretty large expenditure, and I wanted to note it because it is now actually being paid. So it's kind of confusing. I hope I made that as clear as can be. But that is in the docket for tonight, and I wanted to specifically note that. Again, that was approved at the December 19 Redevelopment Commission. So happy to answer any questions on any and all of the above.
Any questions for Mrs. Mans?
I have none.
Thank you.
Seeing none, new business. Resolution 2020-3 pass-through determination.
If you could give them the.
I gave him the worksheet, yeah.
Okay, so by June 15th of each year, we must do a calculation on any pass-through determination, and then pass a resolution and make the necessary filings. I believe Chelsea passed out the calculations with the 2021 expected revenues and expenses. Right now, we are at, based on this calculation, at 101.86% collection versus expenditure. The question is on the pass-through, whether you want to pass anything through or not. Passing the assessed value, sorry if that was not clear.
Is there an Indiana code that gives the calculation by which you arrive at these figures that we could look at? The 200%, the percentage calculations and...
Yeah, in the statute it says if it's over...
That's what I need, is the statute. Can you give me what that statute is?
Yeah, I can follow up with you on what it is. I don't know the section. I mean, it's in 36.714, but I couldn't tell you the section.
I can find it with just that. Thank you.
Well, the fact that it's less than 200%, we don't really have the option to pass it through, do we?
Technically you do,
Do.
but if it's over 200, you have to get the council's approval to pass it through.
Oh,
Or to not pass it through, sorry.
okay.
So there's a backstop of, if you're collecting that much more, then you have to get approval. Now, as Jason pointed out in his scenario, and I'm glad he's still here,
Yeah.
you're right at expenditures and revenues. We don't know how COVID will affect all of the collections. There would be some marginal increase. That's if you pass through 100%. You definitely cannot pass through that as you have outstanding obligations to pay.
And I'd also add, sorry, but these numbers are reflective of 2021, as this determination has to be made for 2021 pass-through, potentially. Keep in mind how much we're spending in 2020. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a lot.
It's $4 million more than.
Right, that we're taking in.
Well, it's not only that, but even the governor has asked his departments to cut 15%.
Right.
And so that's a trickle down. I don't care how you look at it, it's going to affect us.
Right.
So otherwise, I would take a hard look at pass-through. But under the current circumstances, I don't know that we should even consider it. And I don't like saying that, but I don't think we have any other option. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree with you. Not knowing what the situation is going to be and how much we may actually be able to collect.
I'll pass this out. So we have resolution number 20-3 that I prepared, but we didn't pass out because I didn't want to color your analysis on whether you would pass anything through. But I prepared the resolution saying, do you want to pass anything through?
That's an attorney for you. That's an attorney for you.
That's him trying to save us
I know exactly.
some hourly rate right there.
I knew the answer, but I didn't want to make you think that I colored the analysis on what you wanted to do.
I will actually kind of jump in here from a council perspective, but not too much, as I know I'm not sitting right there right now. State Board of Accounts has pretty much told us it is going to be a trickle-down effect. And not only from our perspective, but the county. Everybody will be hit in some form or fashion. And that's kind of why we want to explore a partnership as maybe another avenue, seeing this coming down the pipeline. So that's all I have. With that, I will entertain a motion for resolution 2020-3.
I'll make a motion that resolution number 2020-3 be approved as presented to us.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, I'm sorry, one more time, who seconded that? I'm still, masks, and I'm still getting to know everybody's voice, I'm struggling, so I apologize. Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, legal and managerial updates.
Do you want to talk about the small business we just mentioned?
I'm not either one of these, but I can.
Well, I can as well, but
No.
I thought you may.
One thing that I'm sure everybody's aware of is as Chelsea alluded to earlier, that the Small Business Relief Fund, even though we got quite a lot of great press, which we'll take, including Channel 8 ran, we have received no applications. There's several speculations as to why, mostly because there's a lot of funds that are available. And the governor, I believe, announced this week additional funds. So with that, I would actually like to put a deadline and not leave this as a open-ended item. My suggestion would be to coincide with the current state schedule of reopening from COVID, assuming that small businesses would be up and ready to go when we are fully open and able to go into restaurants and things like that, that they would be more operational then. That date is July 4th. I would like to maybe see a deadline of July 3rd. Comments?
One of the things when we look at business income insurance and we talk with our businesses about the fact that once we put your business back together, you're going to continue to see less business for X amount of time.
Right.
And I don't know that our businesses are going to know by July 3rd how long they're going to be affected by this. I think July 3rd is a little premature for the businesses to know exactly how badly they may need it. That they might find out as soon as they open that they needed it more than they thought. I would suggest maybe another 30 days, but.
Comes back in the agreement.
That's what I was just trying to pull up.
Any other discussion? What are you looking at?
When it reverts back from it in the agreement, when the money reverts back to the commission.
August.
I just didn't know what day in August. I thought it was around August 1st, but could be wrong. There's a date in the agreement that the money that's unspent comes back to the commission. This is a slightly separate question of accepting applications. However, you mentioned another 30 days. That would be similar time frame that's in the agreement. So I was just, Chelsea was looking at what date that was.
August 1st.
So the funds revert back August 1st.
August 1st.
Okay, correct. The 30 days won't work then.
28 days.
Would anybody else jump in here? Or don't? Now you're going to look at the calendar. July 30th is a Thursday, so we would probably need to move it a couple days. How about Monday, July 27th? That would give us,
Does that give enough time to disperse the money and, after they apply for it at that date, to give enough time to make the decision and
I assume, being that we've been so slammed so far, that yes, we would be able to move fairly quickly. Is that assumption correct?
I think we would turn it around, and I guess I would ask from a legal standpoint, if we know we have an applicant for X amount, even if it's not necessarily finalized by August 1st, but we're pushing in that direction, could it just be 50 minus whatever reverted back?
Yeah. Yes, sorry, I mean, yeah, but yes.
Any other discussion on a date? I will entertain a motion for a deadline date for applications for the COVID Relief Small Business Fund.
I'll make a motion that we set the deadline for July 27th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Brian, for bringing those points up. Anything else from legal or managerial?
None from legal.
Chelsea?
I would just also note that in your docket is one of the bond payments for the Gateway bond. We will still have next month, it's not actually due until July 15th, but we'll have an additional $150,000 next month for the SRF bond and the lease installment for the Shell building, which I don't have the total on that. We've not drawn down all of it. And we are only, this is interest only, period, for 3 years. So our January bill was $450. So I'm not sure what it'll be, but just wanted to note those things as our docket's a little bit larger. As always, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for legal or Mrs. Mans?
I have none.
Seeing none, next item on the agenda, a review of claims.
Did everybody get to see the claims that wanted to see them? You too. I'll make a motion that the claims in the amount of $1,096,144.00 be approved by the commission.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. For the good of the order, commission members, anybody have anything they would like to add? Seeing none. Our next meeting date is July 2nd. Thank you all for attending. I will take a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Brian's always good for that one. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Want to stay here longer? We are adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out. Thank you again for coming out. And Lance, as always, thank you.
Sign this.
Signed resolution.
No,
All
everybody
have to.
signs it, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we needed to sign?
I don't know about the minutes, maybe. No, I think just one person
Yes,
signs the minutes.
Oh, I did, the resolution 20-.